اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله، يا إمام الرحمة، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين، يا علي بن أبي طالب، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا فاطمة الزهراء، يا بنت محمد، يا قرة عين الرسول، يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد، يا حسن بن علي، أيها المجتبى، يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله، يا حسين بن علي، أيها الشهيد، يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين، يا زين العابدين، يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا وصي الحسن والخلف الحجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله حاجات. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا سادتي وموالي، إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله، وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله، فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله، فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله، وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله، فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله، صلى الله عليهم أجمعين، ولعن الله أعداء الله الظالمين من الأولين والآخرين، آمين رب العالمين.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد، اللهم صل على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا، اللهم صل. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إلا تنفروا يعذبكم عذابا أليما ويستبدل قوما غيركم ولا تضروه شيئا والله على كل شيء قدير. إلا تنصروه فقد نصره الله إذ أخرجه الذين كفروا ثاني اثنين إذ هما في الغار. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Going back to our discussion on the Tafsir of Surah Tawbah, I recited for you this ayat number 39 and the portion of ayat number 40. The discussion, of course, to catch you up in ayat number 38 was exhorting these Muslimin, getting them ready to say labbaik to the Prophet if he calls you to stand up to protect the religion or stand up to defend the religion. And of course, at that time, there were many attacks and there were many battles that took place. And there were few that made its name where we all have heard a great deal about. But hundreds of other small skirmishes had taken place, which of course not many of us have heard a great deal, but there still is a mention of all of this in Siratul Nabi. So there was a concept or idea that Rasulullah, of course, his itaat, his obedience is like the itaat and the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as established in the ayat, Atiyullah wa Atiyur Rasul. And therefore, his wilayat and his, him being the master over everyone and him being the Rasul from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Surah Hujurat talks about that don't call upon Prophet like you call upon other people, or don't treat him like you treat other individuals. All these instructions were given to sort of guide people at that time, because they treated everyone the same way and they treated Prophet in the same way as well. Kind of like, of course, there's no comparison whatsoever, but the way our tarbiyat is done, when we come across a great alim or buzurg alim and senior alim, we should respect. Even if it's someone who's not that old or, whatever, we still show respect and we get up and we, for example, an elderly person might even get up for a younger alim, the scholar, because of the importance of the ilm that they possess and the knowledge that they have. It's the respect of the knowledge, it's the respect of the ulum-e-deen that they have attained, and not specifically the person, because if this person walked in when nobody knew who he was, without his attire, you would not receive the same sort of treatment and same sort of respect. Now, at that time, people had lived all their life with the Prophet, and now at the age of 40, Rasulullah is now Rasul, and so his status changes in front of them. As it is, they respected him as another human being, but now because of the title of Rasulullah, they thought it would be the same way, they can still communicate with him, talk to him the same way, call upon him, even speak from outside and yelling his name. All these things were, of course, gradually taught to Muslimin that that's not how you treat Rasulullah. And that is all done from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet was, I don't want to use the wrong word, was too shy to go ahead and himself say that now start respecting me because I am wearing the Taj of Risalat, for example. Now start respecting me because now I have this duty and I am your master and you're my subservience. And Rasulullah was not going to go ahead and say this about himself. It wasn't like, he would now change his personality. He was still the same person as he was before and now, and even more now. So with that said, in fact, same person, because our belief is that he was Nabi from the time of his birth. And in fact, before his birth, he was a Nabi. Risalat came about when he was 40 years old. So with that understanding, people didn't think that way about him. They didn't make that switch about him. And so they would doubt him sometime. They would speak to him like they would speak to any other individual. Or, Surah Hujurat goes to the extent that Rasulullah, in fact, in Surah, the Surah which talks about Mujadila, where, in fact, the ayat 12 and 13, which one was sent as a hukum, then it was abrogated. Ayat number 13 was sent to be replacement of that ayat. So nasikh and mansukh, right? Where people would go ahead and waste the time of Rasulullah. They would go see him and they'll just hang around as if Rasulullah has nothing else to do. And so, baate kar rahe hain, shokhiyah maar rahe hain, whatever the case may be, as if, this is what Rasulullah has, he's got a lot of things to do. But he was too nice to tell people, go. You're done, you asked your question, you've had your meeting with me, time to go. So Rasulullah won't be like, start looking at the clock, start asking them questions which would make them believe that your time is up, for example. We had a session from 6 to 7 and time is up and now you gotta go. Or to show any sort of annoyance in his face. Of course, again, no comparison whatsoever, but a person like me who gives time to people, very punctual, you don't show up in 15 minutes, I'm leaving, for example. No, that was not the case with the Prophet. He would be, caring and compassionate and all that stuff. If I can ask the sisters to just open up that area because the men will be walking in from there. So with that said, this concept still continued for a while until the ayat came down. Rasulullah didn't say it himself. He said, well, this is the ayat that just came down. Then people started respecting him the way they should. So one of the things that they had to mobilize, because now he's commander-in-chief, he has to mobilize an army. He has to say, come, let's go. We've been commanded to go, take our battle, and to go fight people in Tabuk. And now you see how people are making excuses. Many people didn't even want to come because of the long distance. Many people had other reservations because it was time for them to harvest the crops and it was time for them to make money. So they didn't want to lose out on that opportunity. So all these things came about. This wouldn't happen if it was all mandatory for you. So in that scenario, I know I took a little bit longer than to build a scenario. In that scenario, now look at this ayat. It says, إِلَّا تَنْفِرُوا يُعَذِّبْكُمْ عَذَابًا أَلِيمًا. If you do not go forth, Rasulullah has mobilized you. He has called you. He's commanded you to do something. Come to war, for example, with him. Come to battle, for example, with him. Come to Tabuk with him. If you do not go forth, He, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will punish you with a painful punishment and replace you with another people. And you will not hurt him in the least. And Allah has power over all things. So this was a command that came down. This was a message that came down, a strong message that came down. That you think you're irreplaceable? No. I said, وَيَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ. Allah will change you with another qawm. It's not like you're irreplaceable. You're easily replaceable. Allah will replace you guys. Someone else will come, for example, in your place, take your place because you are not doing your duty. So ayat itself is about getting them ready for a battle. Of course, they realize at that time, battles had, every time there's a battle, anywhere there's a battle, there are a lot of loss of life. So that was something which was on the back of their mind. If we die, for example, our families, they'll suffer. All these thoughts were in their mind because they were human beings at the end of the day. But there was a need for them to understand the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the command of the Prophet, Ati'ullah and Ati'ur Rasul, should always be in that hierarchy, in that matter. So here, then the matter is taken beyond a reproachable tone and assumes the form of a serious threat. You don't listen? Previous ayat, it was just exhorting, advising. It was recommending them. Here, the tone changes. It's a serious threat. As it says, if you do not go forth to the battle, He will punish you with a painful punishment. Every time, in Arabic grammar, you have the verb and the subject and the object, right? That's how it is in English or any other language for that matter. When the object is described in the same form of the verb, the noun form of the verb, that just shows another level of it. These are some of the intricacies of the Arabic language. That's what makes it so, fasi and baligh. That the ayat said this, يُعَذِّبُكُمْ عَذَابًا. Allah will do azab. Yu'adhib is being used as a verb. So you will receive a punishment. Punishment, that is a punishment which is alim. Where else have you seen an example of this? Ayat Tathir. Yutahhirakum. So the same root which is yutahhir comes the noun form tathira, right? Tathira comes from the same root, yutahhir. How do we usually translate it? So Allah intends to purify you thoroughly. That's how usually the translation is done. I don't know if it does the justice or not, but nonetheless, there's no other way of translating it. That Allah will purify you in a most purifiable way, whatever the case may be. Thoroughly purify you. Here shows the extent of it, severity of it. When it says, إِلَّا تَنْفِرُوا يُعَذِّبْكُمْ عَذَابًا, from the same root, alima. And then is sifat of that azab that comes along with it. And if you think that by withdrawing and turning your backs on the battlefield, the wheel of Islam's progress will come to halt and the light of God's religion will be extinguished, and you are gravely mistaken for that. No, Allah will replace another people from you. Yastabdil is very easy for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't think that you are the chosen, you are the ones. Rasulullah is going to rely on you and He cannot do anything without your support. That is not the case. God will replace you with a people other than yourselves, a people who in every way are different from you, not only in their character, but in their faith, determination, courage, and obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here's an opportunity for you to not go ahead and mess this up. This is a reality, not an imaginary discussion or a far-fetched wish, because Allah has all power over everything. You say, well, it's just far-fetched. How is he going to replace another group of people with these people? Is that even imaginable? All these people that live in Arabia at that time, it's just hypothetical. It's, figure of speech, for example. No, it's not figure of speech. When Allah is saying that He'll replace entirety of you with another group of people, Allah has power over everything. To emphasize on that, the ayat concludes by saying what? Wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir. Allah has qudrat and power over everything, and whenever He wills the triumph of His pure religion, He will, without doubt, bring it into action. So in this verse, and the one preceding it, the matter of jihad is emphasized through few distinct expressions. And I'll go through these quickly. Number one, an address to the believers. It says, Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu. So if you go back to ayat number 38, I have it open in front of me, that Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu. O those who believe, O those who have faith. Ma lakum. What is wrong with you? When you are told to go move forward with the command of Rasulullah, you show slack, you show laziness, you become dull. What's wrong with you? So in that ayat, the tone was like that. This is appealing to the sense of faith. So many times you see, whenever something of a difficult task, a daunting task is being given, if it's coupled with harsh words, if it's coupled with derogatory sentiments, you think it's going to have it's going to yield any positive results? You always got to start off with, something which you can touch the person, where you can, relate with them. You can show passion, compassion. You got to go through that route. That works in our parenting as well. When it comes to our parenting, you want child to do something, you can either say, get on with it, do it, or you can be nice about it. Start with I know as parents it's very difficult. So Maulana, you know what you're. But nonetheless, when you get fed up and you've had it with it, that's another story. But I'm saying every command should not begin with a negative tone of screaming and shouting and yelling. Every command should not begin with that. Yes, after, for example, telling them for an hour and they're not listening, maybe that could be an exception. Because I do the same thing. That's why I'm saying it's an exception. It shouldn't be an exception. I'm just saying, when it comes to speaking to mu'mineen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for that something which is a wajib, going to a war, going to battlefield, which is of course going to have an outcome or has the consequences on the fate of the entire society. See how important that matter is? How does Allah start with? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Oh, those who have faith. Meaning what? I have faith in you. Allah is saying, I have faith in you. Where else have you seen this scenario? Well, what is one of the most difficult ibadat? Prayer is an easy ibadat, right? Relatively speaking. Although for some, that might actually be very difficult as well. But compared to fasting, which is easier, fasting or prayer? Come on. Prayer is easy. Fasting, especially in the summer time, difficult. I get most amount of calls in the month of Ramadan. People trying to excuse out of fasting, or they have already done so, and now they just want to know what's the penalty. And they say, what is the kafara, Maulana? I said, what did you do? Did you just not fast? Did you break your fast? Or was it exempt? I just woke up this morning and didn't want to fast. Oh, that's a kafara. What does that entail? Fasting for 60 days. What? Okay, you can't do that. Feeding 60 people. Sure. How much? $300. So, penalty is severe. It's difficult. So the difficult the task is, the penalty is also just as severe. But how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begin the command of fasting? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Kutiba alaykumus siyam. Kama kutiba alal ladhina min qablikum. La'allakum tattaqun. Oh, those who have faith. Again, the tone is, Allah wants you to do something. He doesn't want to scare you off, because the ibadat itself is scary in a sense, difficult. So he doesn't want to scare you off with that. How's he going to start off with? He's going to start off with this very soft tone, with a loving, compassion tone, O those who believe. And you and I may not have seen this tone because we can't hear how Allah is saying it, right? I'm making it like this. I could have said the same word, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. It would be scary. But I'm saying it as if Allah is saying it, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, right? Change of tone. We would not have known this. We don't know how Allah said it. We don't know how Prophet recited it. But we do know our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, how he explained it. He actually elaborated on this Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. There's a hadith on this part, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Regarding fast, I recite this every year in the month of Ramadan. So just a reminder for you all. Imam said, Laddatun ma fin nida'i azala ta'ab wal ina'i. The laddat, what is that? I can't hear you. Okay. This ability where you feel, not literally, lazzat is not tasting here, is just feeling it, that the sweetness that lies in the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away all the difficulty of this ibadat. Because he spoke in such a soft and sweet tone that we don't feel now that it is a difficult task anymore and we are ready to do it. And the same goes with parenting. You want them to do something, you got to start off, especially if it's something that you want to teach them or something that you want them to be accomplishing, for example, as part of their upbringing, you want to use that soft tone. So it says, address here is the same way, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. So I can repeat that hadith of Imam Jafar Sadiq over here as well, that when it comes to mobilizing the mu'mineen for warfare, look at the tone of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Laddatun ma fin nida'i azala ta'ab wal inai. The sweetness in the call from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hey, what's wrong with going to the battlefield? So what if you're killed? It's martyrdom, it's shahadat, right? So that's how this ayat begins. Number 2, a question posed with reproach. So this starts off with a very sweet tone. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. But then, malakum. What's wrong with you, right? This is where we're trying to get into the conscious of insan, trying to awaken them. What's wrong with you? Sometimes you say to people, someone who's doing something obnoxious, absurd, and the absurdity of it is so vazeh and visible, you don't hold back and you say, well, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing this? Right? That's what it is basically. Malakum. What's literally wrong with you? Why are you, turning a blind eye or a deaf ear? Why aren't you listening? Why aren't you paying attention to what Rasulullah is saying? And then the identification of the cause. Sabilillah. Not for Sabil al-Rasul. Not for his family, not for his brother, not for his sister, not for his children, not for, his neighbors. No. Sabilillah. The moment something is done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, go ahead. You might have issue with this person or issue with that person or someone else, but nobody has issues with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is being done fi sabilillah. A command to mobilize, infiru, go forth. It couldn't be anything more obvious of a command. Sometimes, you and I beat around the bush when we try and give a command not directly. This is as direct as it gets. Infiru, go forth. You have to go to a battlefield, literally go forth. It's not like, so it would be nice, for example, if you came with us and go forth, move. So it's a very subtle or very straightforward, direct command. Urging immediate action, not put it out for tomorrow, not when you're ready, not when you're mentally ready, not when you have harvested your... No. Right now, infiru, move forward. And whenever Fi'l Amr is used in Arabic in Quran, it entails wujub, obligation. So this is not a recommendation or wajib kifai, that if some of you went, it won't be wajib on the rest of you. No. It is everyone who has to be part of this. A warning of divine punishment. Of course, unless whomever Rasulullah says, you stay back, you stay back, you stay back. So Rasulullah did leave someone back. Went to Tabuk, And he did leave someone back, and that was Imam Ali. And people started saying to Imam Ali, look, Rasulullah, here it's an oxymoron. Imam wants to go. There are people who don't want to go. Imam actually wants to go to the battlefield. He wants to be part of the action, as he has been for all these years. He wants to go. But Rasulullah says to him, no, you stay back. No, I need you to be back over here. And then that's where the famous hadith, Ala tarda, that, oh Ali, are you not radhi? Anta minni bi manzilati Haruna min Musa illa la nabiyya ba'di. The way Harun was left behind by Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, I am leaving you behind as my deputy as well, in charge after me. So here, the infiru was the go forth with urging immediate action. Number 5, a warning of divine punishment. It says, illa tanfiru yu'adhibkum. He will punish you, emphasizing the consequences of inaction. So there isn't really any option for you. You must take action. You must move forward. It's not a recommendation. It is as wajib as it gets. Sometimes we see in the times of the second caliph especially, when this sentence was added to Salatul Fajr, As-salatu khairum minan nawm. And he also did something. He removed the lines from the adhan and iqamat, which is hayya ala khairil amal. The history behind that is that people, he in his mind thought that if this is khairul amal, salat is khairul amal, and if I tell people, Rasulullah had hard time bringing people to battlefield, guess what? I'm going to have difficult time as well. And people will turn around and tell me, we're praying, that's khairul amal, that's best of the actions, so I don't need to worry about going to the battlefield. I'll stay in masjid, I'll stay and pray all day long, I'm doing khairul amal. Why do I need to go to, an action for which there is no riwayat that says khairul amal? So what did he do? He removed the word khairul amal from the adhan. That's not how it works. You want to emphasize on something's importance, you don't just go ahead and minus something from which is already a well-established thing. So there was there in the time of Rasulullah, it was there in the time of the first Khalifa, it was then removed in the time of the second Khalifa. Because he thought that if people, they'll give me an excuse, oh, I'm already doing khairul amal, I don't need to go to the jang or the battlefield. So he got rid of that sentence altogether. Then a threat of replacement, yastabdil, suggesting that others may take your place. If you don't go, someone else will definitely do so. A statement that abandonment of the battlefield will not cause harm. You think you abandon the battlefield, you don't come along with Rasulullah, it's going to cause harm to him and it's going to cause harm to Islam? That's your imagination. That's not going to happen. Allah is not going to let that happen. You think, okay, if we don't go, Rasulullah is in need of us. He needs people. We're not going to go. He's going to come back to us. No, he doesn't need you. And because he has someone backing him, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, indicating the futility of resisting divine will. So if you resist the divine will, if you resist other people, yeah, you might damage them. But if you resist divine will, you're not going to cause any damage whatsoever. And lastly, a reference to the omnipotence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadir, that indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is qadir, has power over all things. So from all these above verses, it is clearly understood that attachment of the warriors to worldly life makes them weak in the matter of jihad. That was discussed in ayat number 38. I didn't get a chance to speak about the end part of ayat number 38. I started ayat number 39 today. The end part is this: Araditum bil hayat ad-dunya min al-akhirah. Are you satisfied with the hayat ad-dunya, the worldly life, from the hereafter life? فَمَا مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. And the world compared with the hereafter is nothing, it's but insignificant. The word mata is used, mata mim te alif, right? From the same, you have the temporary marriage, which is also temporary in nature. You have a hajj tamattu, Umrah tamattu and Hajj tamattu. Why? There's different types of Hajj. One is called the one that you and I perform when we go to Hajj. It's called Hajj tamattu. Hajjatul Islam, of course, but we're doing the niyat of what? Umrah tamattu and Hajj tamattu. Tamattu comes from that, the qillat or the qalil part, the short nature of it. That between Umrah tamattu and Hajj tamattu, you get very little time. So by the time you've done your Umrah, for example, by the 5th or the 6th of Zulhijj, you take off your ihram until you put on the ihram again, on the 9th of Zulhijj, you have very little time. So it says, فَمَا مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. I hear the sound of azan, so inshallah I'll stop over here. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to understand the ayat of Quran. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us on the day of judgment with this Quran. Make this Quran and Ahl Bayt to be our shafi on the day of judgment. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of our awaited Imam. Make us amongst the helpers.